Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the GAAQ Parent Coffee Morning live stream. I would love to have this in person, but because of everything that's going on, we have to do the live stream. But nevertheless, I am excited to have our esteemed leadership here on the panel with me and to discuss the survey results. So back in the fall, right? I think November or so, you should have received some survey results, to fill out from Jim's Education to be able to put results down on your feedback about our school. So we're really here today to discuss these survey results. What do they mean? How important your parent feedback is, and what we're going to do with these results, because we have another survey coming out soon in the springtime as well. But the first thing I want to say is I hope everyone had a great holiday for Qatar National Sports Day. There's some really cool things going on in this country. Hope some people had some sleep, had the day off to do whatever they wanted to do. But I hope that you and your family had a chance to go out, get active, and get physical, yesterday. But we're back into work mode today. But happy for everyone to come in. Parents, if you're in the YouTube chat, let us know what you did. Put, where you went. What did you do? How did you spend your Qatar National Day? You could put that in the chat. For me, I went and played. I was going to play basketball, but didn't play that. So I did a little walking, instead. That was my level of physical activity for the day. I saw some cool things around social media as well. And then perhaps we'll start off the show by saying, what did everyone do when they do their introductions as well? So we're going to start with Mr. Mark first, our head of school. So, Mr. Mark, let everyone know, what did you do yesterday for Qatar National Sports Day? And then let us know who you are and, any other details that we need to know.
I get to brag a little bit then if you were going to talk about Qatar Sports Day. So I'm Mark Lentz, head of school. That means there's always a confusion sometimes amongst British and American terminology. So I'm sometimes referred to as the principal, the guy in charge of the whole school. And then you would have a division head in lower school or upper school. We Americans like to do things a little differently, right? So I'm the head of school of the whole school, and we have division principals in upper school and lower school. So that is my job. And yeah, I get to talk a little bit about my kid. My daughter is a pretty good football player. And yesterday she was in a big women's tournament, not just with other kids, with adults. Little disappointed that they came in second place in the entire tournament, which has been going on for a week. We were really hoping they would win, but in fairness, she's just 16 and she was beaten by the Qatar national women's team, most of whom are full-blown adults and play professional soccer. That is their main job, right? So, but yeah, her team got beaten 2-1, but the event was hosted by David Beckham, so she did get to meet David Beckham, have some conversations with him, shake his hand, and she also met Sheikha Hermosa. So she had a much cooler day than her daddy did. My wife and son and I, while we were waiting for her while she was playing, we weren't allowed to watch because it's a women's tournament, so it was contained. We went to Spire Park and walked all around for several hours and had a blast. So yeah, just had a great Qatar Sports Day. I hope everybody else did as well.
All right, sounds great. I did see that picture on social media as well with your daughter. I thought I was seeing double, but I was like, oh, I think that's her. So that's
pretty
awesome.
Cool.
It's awesome. Mr. Gregory, let us know what you did and any other interesting facts about who you are.
Yeah, I'm the upper school principal for grades 6 through 12. Been here for a long time. I started today by getting up and doing a 7K run. I'm trying to get back into my running. Because of the construction in West Bay at the moment, I'm a bit limited on where I can run, as you can imagine, with all of the roads. So it was a bit repetitive. Won't say where. Don't want people on social media knowing where I live. And then I went for a walk on the LaSalle Marina later in the day, which was really nice. I haven't been there yet. It's a lovely area, a lot of potential. But other than that, yeah, that was pretty much it for the day. I think my knees can feel my run right now. So, but I was happy I was able to do it. Just need to improve my time.
That sounds good. You're getting older, but you're still young at the same time. So, all right. And Jordan, could you let us know what did you do yesterday and a little bit more about who you are?
Sure. So my name is Jordan Scheer. For those of you that I have not met, I am the lower school principal. This is my first year at GEMS and my first year in Qatar. But it's my 12th year abroad from the U.S., originally from New Jersey, just like Justin. But I've been abroad for about 12 years now and enjoying Qatar so far. Yesterday for National Sports Day, I was able to do a couple things. My wife and I went out to a nice breakfast in Masharib, walked around the downtown area of Masharib, hadn't explored that area very much. So it was really nice to just kind of walk around and see what that area has to offer. Really beautiful little area if you haven't been over there. Lots of really, really nice cafes and restaurants. And then the way back, we managed to pick up a bicycle for my daughter. She's 2, so she's a little young for one, but we found a really small one and got to spend part of the afternoon just kind of pushing her around inside our complex as she discovered how much she likes riding a bike, which was pretty amazing. And then fortunately, I was able to sneak in a little bit of a run for myself later in the evening. I don't want to upstage Mr. Gregory, so I'm not going to tell you how long my run was. But all in all, it was a nice day. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You're such a professional and gentleman. You didn't want to do that to Mr. Gregory. Appreciate that. No, that's awesome, though. That sounds amazing. It sounds like a true New Jerseyan getting out there, getting active. So appreciate that. All right. So we had everyone. I guess I need to introduce myself. Right? I don't know. Maybe I could do that as well before we go ahead. Right. So I'm Mr. Justin Tyler. I am the parent relations executive here at Jim's American Academy. I've been here for 4 years next month. Isn't that amazing, right? 4 years. So it's been a long ride, and I don't plan leaving anytime soon. So for me, I love what I do. We do a little bit of marketing in my department, customer service. We do social media engagement. We do tours, right? So if you're a new family here or a family currently in our school, you probably have seen me before. I'm the one that sends out all the emails, really, for the newsletters and school-wide parent communication. So if I haven't seen you, hello, how are you? If I have seen you, look forward to seeing you in our school at some point. So without further ado, I really wanted to get into, the meat of the sandwich today and for why we're all here, which is to discuss a little bit of the parent survey that we just had. And there's some really exciting news, and we really take parent feedback, seriously. That's part of my job. I literally have parent in my title to be the bridge between parents and also the school administration and also Jim's education as well. So as a dedicated person for these concerns, and that's the office that I have. I'm here to help out not just the parents, but I also help out students and anything else as well. So we do take it very seriously here. So what we're going to do today is take time to discuss the results, right? And understand what all these scores mean that you submitted, what your results mean, what we're going to do with these results. This is a lot of information. So once we do this, now we will ask for the parents at some point. You can put it in the chat anytime that you want. Any questions you have, any comments, any thing that you want to tell us about the survey, about how we're doing. I encourage you now to put it in the chat. And what we'll do at the end of our questions, we'll answer all the parent questions and any type of inquiries that you have, okay? So again, I tell you right now, start putting your questions in because I'm going to read them one by one, put them on the screen, and then our leadership is going to address those things, okay? So let's go on with the show, all right? And so first thing first, in terms of questions, we have to ask this important question. What is the importance of this GEMS parent survey? So I'll let Mark start off, and then everyone can also have their input before we go on to the next question.
Thanks, Justin. So not just the parent survey, we do a lot of surveys. We're literally in the process. We've just done a senior leadership survey so the teachers can give our leadership team feedback so we can help improve. In upper school, your students would have just recently done a survey of their teachers. So those teachers are getting feedback from the students so that they can improve. And then, of course, the parent survey is that exact same process. We want to get as much information from you as possible in order to help us improve. If you have been here with us the whole ride over the last 7 years, you'll remember right after I got here almost 6 years ago now, I put together what we called a start, stop, continue, where we just ask very simply, what is it that hasn't happened at our school that you would like us to start? What is not working? You know, what things do we need to stop, if anything, and what's going great that we need to continue? From that, we build our strategic plan. It helped us get our NIASC accreditation. And throughout that process, you, the parents, have been an integral part of that self-improvement. And we never want to rest. I think we've come a long way, but the best way to make sure you're not going backwards is to keep going forward. So no matter how far we've come, we want to continually improve. And your feedback is really honestly one of the number one sources of information that we use to reflect on that same process. What do we need to start next? What do we need to stop or redo? And what's going great? And I will look at every single parent comment, everyone personally. And then we will also look for trends. We just recently did a bit of a deep dive into that, where we had Justin go through with the SLT and show us various trends in the survey. So we really take that feedback seriously.
Someone can go, Mr. Gregory or Mr. Jordan.
Yeah, I just linking in with what Mark's saying, like a lot of surveys, we do a lot of surveys. We've just done a student survey in upper school in grade 6 through 12 with the teachers. So we haven't given the teachers the feedback yet because we're still gathering it. We have till tomorrow. But I think most of the teachers have got it done. So all of your children have had an opportunity to give feedback to each one of their individual teachers in a form. And then we're going to give that to the teachers, because not only do we value parent feedback, we also value our student feedback and their voice, because they're the ones who we want to be in charge of their learning. So I meet with students every day throughout the week, just talking to them about what they want to see different and what we can do different within reason. Sometimes they don't have the most reasonable responses. And then the survey, again, like Mark said, not only did we do the SLT deep dive into the data and look at trends and stuff, we've done professional development with the staff, where we went in and we did a deep dive and showed staff what were the trends and what we see that we need to work on to improve. As always, like as educators, we're about continuous lifelong learning. So we're always learning and we're always trying to improve. It could be 40, 50 years from now, and this school will still have areas of growth that it's going to have. So it's always good to get feedback and then continue to chip away and strive for perfection. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is echo what Mark and Eamonn said. But I do want to draw an analogy here. You know, a lot of people view survey results and taking a survey, participating in a survey as similar to voting, right? Where they say, you know, well, what good does my vote have? You know, what's the point? Everybody else is doing it. I can't make that much of a difference. And all I can say is that I disagree with that. And I disagree with that in terms of voting. And I also disagree with that in terms of completing a survey, you know, because your voice is important to us. And who knows, you may have an insight that somebody else doesn't have. And it's important for us to get access to that and to be able to reflect on it. So what I would do is encourage all of you that when the next survey comes out in the spring, please take the time to fill it out and complete it. It is valuable. Your time is valuable and your feedback is valuable. And I'm not going to spend time rehashing what Eamonn and Mark already said, because I agree with that. But again, I would just encourage you all to complete and participate in any surveys that are coming out in the future.
Definitely. And the only thing I would say about surveys is that we really look at it. You know, some of the really surprising things we have seen in a good way as well. And also some things that, okay, real things like, okay, we need to really fix that. So this is something that's not an echo chamber. We really have deep conversations about things and go back and forth. and we really dive into the data. What point is it to have you go through the time, right, to put all your results in and that we don't do anything about it? Doesn't make any sense. That's not good leadership. That's not good proactiveness. That's not what you want to see from a school. And so, again, because of your feedback, because of you telling me what is going well, what's not going well, telling your principals, telling your teachers, that all goes up to the top. It doesn't stop with just your teacher, if you tell it. It doesn't stop with just your principals. It doesn't stop with just me. It goes up to the top. So I'm really proud to work with a team of people who really take that, for certain, because even in my position, I take that seriously as well. And that's why I'm even here. So if I didn't see that happen, I'll be very disappointed, right? May not even be here, but we do it well. And it's only because of you all that give us the honest and raw truth. And even the students as well. And so that's what I like too, that doesn't stop from just the parents. Students have a say in this school just as much as the parents as well. All right, so it was great to hear from everyone. It was a good introductory question, but let's get into some of the technicalities of the survey and what all the numbers and everything meant. And so the next question I have for everyone is, what is NPS, or Net Promoter Score? How are these scores ranked on the survey? So we'll go in reverse order from the last time. So we'll start with Jordan first, and then we head up and finish with Mr. Mark.
All right. So I did already say that this is my first year with GEMS, and so this is my first experience with a parent survey at this scale, and the Net Promoter Score. And from my understanding, and I've had a couple of conversations with Justin about this, and broken down the numbers for me. But my understanding, it's the parent responses are broken into three categories, right? We have positive responses, we have neutral responses, and then we have negative responses. And those three responses are all parents' responses are broken into those three categories, and they get counted as plus points, nothing, or negative points. And I am happy to report, and I'll let Mark talk about this a bit more, but that our positives were far outnumbered the negatives. We really, the overall feedback that we got from the parents was quite positive. And our Net Promoter Score, I believe, and I don't want to misquote here, was number 3 in the company.
That's correct.
Let the cat out of the bag a little early here, but and that tells us that in general we are doing a good job. And of course, as Eamonn said, there are areas to improve in. There are always areas to improve in. But we were very positively encouraged by our results. And we also got a few specific things that we know we need to work on. But yeah, overall, that kind of is the quick down and dirty of the survey results.
So before you go, Eamonn, right, I want to say one thing. So we could say 3 out of the whole GEMS Education Network, but let's see how many schools there are. So Mark, out of 3, right, we're 3. So how many other schools out of that, 3, like what are we talking about? Is it 70? Is it 80? How many does GEMS have?
It's a good question. And when you ask the question, how many schools does GEMS have? It changes. It changes so often that it's difficult to update. And then it depends what you mean by how many schools do we have. There's a whole area in India where they've taken over the public school system. A few years back, the country of Uganda approached GEMS to run all of Uganda's school systems. I don't think that actually went through that time, but so the number of schools could be thousands, depending on what, comparing apples to apples. But when you're thinking of the GAAQ that Wellington next door, the large scale international curriculum schools, it's just over 50. So we're number 3 out of about 50.
Thanks for that clarification. That really helps. Thank you. Mr. Gregory, go ahead. Proceed, sir.
Yeah, I think knocking on to what Jordan said, like I've been here for 7 years, and I think, we've had a lot of external review boards coming in. GEMS themselves have come in and done, annual reviews of the school. We've had NIAS, we've gone through accreditation, and every time on top of their list of like what's the biggest positive in the school, it's always about the community. So that's sort of what, our Net Promoter Score being 3rd out of 50 and out of the schools in a large educational company, the largest in the world, I still think. says a lot about our community and the feedback and why we value that. And I think students and parents feel like they have a voice, so it's good. And I think we had like a high turnout, Justin, in the survey with parents. So it is an accurate data pool that we got, which again, it's good to have a good sample size in order to get a real voice from the parents. But yeah, it's been good. It's good data, and it's always worth looking at. Any company that's worth their value will look at data and review that data. But it's also more important in something, you know, if we consider this a community, and listen to each other's voice in a community is very important. So yeah, I think we've lost them. Have we lost them?
Yeah, I don't see Justin, so I will. I'll just jump in because I was next to talk, and hope that everybody out there in TV land, so to speak, can still see us and hear us. The actual score that we got was 41, which on one hand I'm very, very proud of. It's actually the highest net promoter score that we've ever had. So really happy about that as an organization. That's something to be proud of. But at the same time, I'm not satisfied with number 3. We were number 1 twice. Number 3 out of 50 is great. Number 1 out of 50 is even better. So I mentioned my daughter and how proud we were of her, that she came in second in this giant national tournament, right? But she came in second. She'd be a lot happier if she came in first. The story of meeting David Beckham, when I won the Qatar national tournament, sounds better than I met David Beckham the day I came in second in the Qatar national tournament, right? So third's amazing. It's not as good as first. And we were first before, and we will be first again. In order to do that, we need to look at the feedback that you gave us on that survey and be responsive to that. I tell my parent, I tell people all the time when they ask why I think the NPS score is so important, as I say, because my parents aren't stupid. The very, very first democracy in the history of mankind failed after about a 50-year period in ancient Greece, and Plato wrote works called Plato's Republic. And in that, he's quoted to say, for democracy to succeed, it needs an educated and participatory populace. And I think my parents, back to Jordan's point about voting, I think my parents are both educated and participatory. And so your feedback is incredibly valuable. So like I said, 41 is amazing. Thanks for giving us that highest score ever. And I don't want that score to just be a fictitious number. If we don't deserve it, I don't want it. So I want that feedback from you guys to be accurate, and I believe it is. And in fairness, the school that beat us was DAA, the largest sort of flagship in our network, run by a very good friend, Tammy Murphy. So her and I have jokingly told her that I'm more than a little angry with Tammy, and I will knock her off the post, and we will be number 1 again. But for now, thank you for your valuable feedback, and thanks for making us the third school with the highest NPS score.
Podium finish.
Yes. And if Tammy is watching, Mark means respectfully.
Yes.
But definitely, we're very competitive over here for sure. But thanks for that, Mark, for clearing that up. I had some technical difficulties, so if my internet goes out or anything like that, please, gentlemen, please carry on. I will find a way to go back on the show. All right. So I think Mark touched on this next question a little bit, but let's see if we can get something else out of it as well for our parents. So how does this year's NPS score compare to our historical survey scores, right? I will let Mr. Gregory start with this one. I'll go to Mark after that, and then end off with Jordan for this one.
So this one, as Mark hinted at, we were number 1 twice. And I think last year wasn't a great year for us. But I'd like to defend that in a little way. Don't like to make excuses, right? Winners don't make excuses. But we were competing with all of the gem schools from the UAE, essentially, because that's where the largest portion is. And they had a different they had a different year than we did. Our COVID year last year was pretty hectic, a lot of changes, and you know, a lot of the things that we've changed to do this year. Again, like I think our seniors last year felt like we didn't appreciate them. And then at the very end, we did this awesome graduation, and then I think they retracted that comment. But I think midway part of the year, they were a little frustrated with us because they didn't feel like, you know, they're looking for somebody to blame, and we're the easiest ones to blame. But you know, we were just trying to follow the laws and the regulations by the country. And I think in the UAE, they were a lot more normal than it was here. So they had a bit more of a normal school year. So we were competing against those schools. I know we dropped a little bit last year, but I don't think it was overly that bad in consideration. But yeah, like you know, we're a growing school. We're getting bigger. We were number one, and I agree with Mark. I think we're going to be number one. I'm a competitive person. You know, it's something that we want and we pride ourselves on. So I think it's going to be something that we concentrate and work on again, and that's why we're having those meetings with the teachers. Why SLT is going through the data. We have small things, we have big things that we're going to be doing in the next few months and the next year to try and improve that, and then knock it out of the park next year. Yeah.
Mark can go next. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Eamonn, you're completely right. Most of the heads of schools that I talked to last year, they had far more days where they were live on campus, 100% attendance. And parents were frustrated with online learning. I was one of the parents who was frustrated with online learning. I get it. It was an unusual, the last 2 years have been very, very unusual. You know, we just went to online learning back in January for 2.5 weeks, as you know. That said, we got a lot more positive responses in that situation in January. And I think it goes to show that we have been listening. We have been hearing your comments about our online learning platform and continue to sort of tweak and perfect that. Hopefully it's a moot point and it never happens again. But if it does, each iteration seems to have improved. And we want to do that same thing, you know, with our on-campus learning. But it is great to have the kids back. School is not the same without the kiddos here. And we do very much miss you guys. I really miss talking to parents and the parent. This parent coffee morning normally would actually have coffee and we would be sharing that. You know, we really miss that and hope that comes back soon.
So I guess I have a slightly different perspective from Mark and Eamonn in that this is my first year here, right? And so I come in without some of the past accolades or baggage that happened in previous years of a school. And so for me, I'm able to look at the survey data, be generally very pleased with it, but also recognize that there's room for growth. And so, you know, I see that we're number 3, and number 3 is nothing to be ashamed of. But as Mark said, it's not number 1. And so I would love during my time here, however long that is, to get back to number 1. And that's one of my goals personally and for a school is to help us get back to number 1 and you know, reclaim our crown, so to speak. So yeah, I look forward to it. And I thank all of you for participating in the survey this year.
Yeah, I think also as well, when I do tours with families, I always have to show them the awards and accolades section of our school. And for me, I'm quick to always tell them that we don't do it for the awards. We don't do it for the recognition or the pat on the back. We just want to win. We just want to be the best for your kids. You know, it's just in us anyway. If we get the awards, no problem, we'll take it. You know, get the recognition, no problem, we'll take it. But it's really just for the mission. Right? The mission of why we are here as educators, why we are here as professionals. That's what matters the most. What you see in this, you know, cupboard of awards and things like that, that's the byproduct of the mission of the work. That's really what it is. But I don't like showing it because it seems like, you know, you're being pompous and all that, but it's not that at all. It's just a byproduct of what we're trying to do and trying to fulfill our mission that we told you when you first came to our school. So just want to clear that up. All right. So let's move on to the next question. So based on the survey results, what did we do well? Simple question. Mark, I'll have you start first and we'll go from there.
That's a great question. And I think it also allows me to maybe talk a little bit about how deeply we dig into those survey results and why we dig into them so deeply. So, and let me give you an example is one of the things that we had the most detractors about was our leadership team and our communication with parents and parents feeling levels of support. So if I evaluate it from that standpoint and I'm looking at detractors, I think, we did something went wrong this year. I really need to look at that. And I go back and look at the exact same report from the promoters' standpoint, and the thing we scored absolutely the highest on, without a doubt, was the senior leadership team and their support and their communication with parents, and just knocked that one out of the park. In fact, that is an area we were number one. We had the highest parent satisfaction rate with our senior leadership team of any school in the network. So we did really well there. And then when I say we did a deep dive as an SLT, I actually did a deep dive with the head of his guy named Huel, who does the surveys for GEMS. And he and I went through it in depth as well. And, one of the things he said, and it makes perfect sense, if you are really happy with a school, who might you choose to give credit to? Well, the senior leadership team. If you have a miserable experience at a school and you're unhappy, who might you give credit to, right? The senior leadership team. So there is a logic to both of those things. That said, I still look at the comments that then go through that. And I'm a firm believer that I'm not going to then just say, okay, well, we knocked it out of the park and we have the highest satisfaction rate with the senior leadership team, so I'm not going to bother reading those negative comments. No, someone in our community was unhappy for a reason. I want to know what that reason was. And so as much as the accolades, Justin, you said, we don't do it for the accolades, right? As much as those really positive comments are great, and attaboy, you're amazing. Good job, Mark. I really appreciate that. But if I read something in there that says, we wish Mark would do blank better, that's constructive feedback I can work on to try and become a better head of school for all of you. And so that's the level at which we look at these. And another example is you'll see 16 comments that say we give too much homework. And you think, oh man, maybe we're giving way too much homework. We're overloading the kids. But then you see 97 comments that say we don't get enough homework. Well, then I got to look at that. That's an example that didn't happen, by the way. So, but the next thing you would then want to look at is it grade specific? Are they getting too much homework in upper school and not enough in lower school, or vice versa? And so there's really a lot of metrics to dig into those survey results and look. On the homework one, since I brought it up as an example, it seemed to pretty much balance itself out. If I get a few that say we don't have enough homework and a few that say we do have enough homework, and that's consistent across the board in most grade levels, then I feel like we're probably somewhere where we want to be. We want to make sure that we are academically challenging your kids, but we also want to remember that they're kids. I want my kid to go home and play in the afternoon. I want yours to do the same thing.
True. Mr. Gregory, Mr. Jordan? Mm-hmm.
The simplest one that I got, won't take up too much time, but it was just the teachers. A lot of the feedback was about individual teachers and how they care about their kids so much and that they push them. And that just, I had a lot of shout outs to teachers individually when I was reading the comments and stuff, which is great to see. The other thing then was I just had a student on campus last year who is a graduate. He graduated. He's currently in university in Turkey doing dentistry. But one of the comments he said was he was so happy that we pushed him to do and that we were hard on him, because he was like, university's tough. He was like, college is tough. It was like, I'm so happy that you pushed us to do do the work, that type of way. So that was a great recognition as well from last week from a student who's graduated. But I think, yeah, teachers was the biggest positive that I seen. I think our parents love our teachers and love the teachers who've stayed here for so long, and that's a great testament to the school.
Yep. For me, and again, I won't rehash what they've said, but one thing that came out of the survey is that I feel we scored quite well on is safety, right? Safety is something that has taken on new prominence. You know, school safety is always important. You know, keeping, you know, you trust us with your kids all day, every day, and with the addition of COVID into our lives, safety has taken on a new level of importance, and we are proud that most parents seem to feel that we are doing everything in our power to keep your kids safe. And even though that kind of falls outside the realm of the education of your children, it is one of the most important things that we do. And so that was something that I highlighted specifically in the survey, is just how is the positive reaction to our policies and what we're doing to keep your kids safe.
All right. Well, I won't go on too much of my impact on that because, you know, for us, from a customer service perspective, my team is the receptionist, right? And we want to also make sure that we're doing our best to communicate with you and, you know, answer your phone calls, answer your emails, things like that. So I would love to know as well from parents how you feel about that. And from the survey, you seem pretty good. It seemed like you all are happy with the school-wide communication and the updates. Maybe we update too much, remind too much, but we'd rather you have the info than not have it at all. All right. So I'm always interested to hear how we're doing on that and from a school-wide perspective as well. All right. So let's move on. We have 2 more questions left before we go into the parent question. So this is the part where the parents are going to ask us a lot of questions. So we're 2 questions away from that. But the next question here, so as we move on, is based on the survey results, what surprised you? Good or bad? Anyone can start. This is a round robin. Anyone can start this one.
All right,
That's a hard question.
Go first. So yeah, what survey results surprised us? You know, I don't know that honestly there were any major surprises for me. I think I was very happy with this year's survey results. There's another thing about I'm taking a tangent possibly from the question that you asked, Justin, but you can, it also, if you did the survey, you'll note that it doesn't just ask you a specific question, it will ask you what's your importance of that question. So again, when we're talking about diving into that, and I used homework as an example, the proper amount of homework, you could list its importance and then you could list your satisfaction rate with that. So you might say, wow, amazing, 10 out of 10 satisfaction rate, but you might have said importance to you, I don't really care if my kid has too much homework, right? They'll get through it. My importance, that's only about a 6. So, and I think we really dug into it more this year. That was a new metric for me to be able to really look at how important is it, because that to me, to some extent, also gives me, what made me think of that is your comment, Jordan, is when I went through that with Huel, he was saying, look, not only did you score really highly on health and safety, but that was one of the highest, that was one of the most important things for your parents. And so maybe the surprise for me was being able to really see that not only do I see how you rank us, but I see what you value in that survey. And so safety was right up there with quality of education. So that was not really a surprise per se, but it was new information gained. Does that sort of answer the question, Justin?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, my one was, it's one of the things I want to work on for next year, and I think will improve it, is that we did have school-wide a good turnout of people filling in the form, but I think in middle school, it wasn't as many as I would have liked. So a bit more of a push next year for parents to fill out the survey in middle school, because I know our middle school parents love our school, and I want to hear their feedback if there is any. So it's just that little bit of push. So it surprised me a little bit. I thought more would have filled it out in the middle school, grade 6 through 8 group, but overall, I was pretty happy with it. You know, it's a lot of it's a bit of time to do that survey. So I appreciate everybody's time when they're filling it in. But yeah, we're going to make a push next year and make sure that teachers are reminding parents to fill it in. And I think that will see us get the #1 spot, because we'll get more positives from our student body or from our parent body.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, in different sections of the school you have different takeaways, right? And for me, one of the things that surprised me was our response rate. You know, because typically when you send out a survey results, you look at statistically, you want about 40% response rate, which seems really low, right? If you're not familiar with doing surveys and voting, 40% seems low, but in actuality, 40% is quite good. And we were above that. And that's really a testament to you guys and how seriously you take it, and how much, how important GEMS is to you. Because if something's not important, you're not going to spend the time to do something like that. And, you know, the fact that we got a response rate above average is a key indicator for us. Of course, we always, as Eamonn said, we always want more people, right? We want more feedback. We want more people to respond. We'd love to have 80, 90% feedback. In the survey world, in the statistics world, that's virtually unheard of. But we'd love to get there. That'd be great.
Awesome. Great point as well. Yeah, I was really happy with the turnout for the parents. I wasn't surprised, but definitely happy as well. So, all right, we have one more question before we get to the parents' comments and questions. And so let's make this pretty quick, because I could be long-winded as well. So let's look at the last question here. How do we plan to improve our school for the next survey? And what part would parents play in those improvements? Anyone can go.
Yeah, I think we've touched on that a couple of times, but just sort of recapping what we've said is we will continue to look at those survey results that you've given us, as well as the survey results from our teachers and from our students. We have a process every year of looking at our strategic plan, beginning and end of every year, as a point of sort of reflection. What did we do well? What are we going to do differently for next year? And that's a process we go through every year and will continue to go through. So yeah, that's about as succinct as I get. I can be long-winded as well.
I've started a few committees within the teacher bodies right now. Me and Miss Jordan have started one for the transition committee between grade 5 to grade 6, and encouraging that so that we can work on the transition of our elementary students up into the upper school, into middle school. We started it last year. It was a really good success. So we just want to build on it. And there's a few feedback points on that in the survey. And one of the things we got in the middle school, grade 6 through 8, feedback was that they wanted more events and more activities. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be starting to try to do one every month for the next few months and incorporating that next year. And then there was ideas about breaks and advisories and all of that in the middle school division, that we're looking at building a schedule around, trying to incorporate some of those suggestions and ideas. Harder than you think to build a schedule. We do have requirements from the ministry and our accrediting board, so it's sometimes hard when we're in those restrictions, but we'll try to make it work and make it as best suited to our kids as we can. And all of that comes again from student feedback and parent feedback. So that's why this is so important.
Yep. Earlier on, Mark mentioned an activity that we do called Stop, Start, Continue, right? And that's really the next phase of this, is we take this feedback and we reorganize it into a Stop, Start, Continue, and then we go over that with the staff, right? It literally gives us a list of what we're doing well that we need to keep going with, what is not going well that we should consider putting a pause on or an altogether stop on, and then new initiatives and things that would help us improve. And the second part of Justin's question here is, what part do parents play in this? Is just continue to give us feedback, right? That's it. That's your part that you can do, is you've given us some feedback, and don't we ask that you don't just sit back and say, okay, I did my part, right? As things continue to change, as things continue to develop, as we add new programs in, let us know what you think. And don't necessarily wait for a survey to do it, right? That's the other thing, and I get emails from parents daily asking me about things and seeing if, either saying, hey, this is great, thank you so much, or, hey, have you thought about this? And that's what we want. That's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. And the last thing I'll say is just, it is really a relationship between, parents, students, and teachers. We all can't do it alone. Any level of greatness happens because someone helped someone else. It doesn't happen from one person doing everything, right? So we always continue to try to foster those relationships and that triangular relationship between all of us, right? We're no good if we don't have parent support. We're no good if we have student support, and from the vice versa. You may be no good, if we don't get the support you need from the school. So we all help resource each other, and we all help each other's back, because as a community, that's what we should do. And that's what the part of community and family is about. All right. So you have basic families there that builds up the community. So the stronger the family, stronger the relationships, the better the community. And that's what we're going to try to promote as much as possible here. So thank you, parents, for giving us the feedback. It doesn't annoy us at all. We want to hear what's going well. We don't want to be surprised by anything, right? So please continue to do that. All right. So time for the main event. Rub my hands for the time for the parent Q&A session. All right. And so I want to be able to post up some comments from parents, and I want the principals to, succinctly discuss that question or comment or inquiry, okay? So let me scroll through my comments from the top, and I really appreciate the parents who gave a lot of their comments so far, and we're going to go through them. Hopefully I don't miss anyone, all right? So we'll go through everything. So Sidra says, best thing about GAAQ, working on parents' feedbacks and resolving the issues as soon as possible. We appreciate it. All right. We appreciate that. Thank you. Yep. She says, love it. We love it too. All right. And then, so Abdullah's not here, but could help families now. So I'm sure we agree that the period of online learning was not real beneficial, especially for young children. We hope you can concentrate on bringing the kids back to good habits. And education is an experience, not only in the books and homework. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know Mr. Mubarak, and I know his kids pretty well. I think the online has been, it's been an experience. It's had its pros and its cons. I think the holistic approach of the education and what the American curriculum is all about is more about being engaged and interacting, and the social, skills that you build inside the classroom. So one of the feedback points that me and Mr. Wessel, the assistant principal, when we're doing our feedback with teachers, is we talk about getting more of that going on and having more engaging classes that way. I've already seen in the last week some games being incorporated into the class, things to get students out of their seats, things to get them off their device and get away from the books and stuff. A large part of it is, a lot of kids doing AP courses. There's books and they've got to do reading, and it's all part of the learning process. But our teachers are making the conscious effort now to think about different things that are away from the laptop. So it changes. It's going to change month to month, but I think we're making a good approach to it at the moment.
I think Mr. Mubarak's comment for me really hits home, because one of my own personal beliefs is that school should be a place that kids want to come, right? You're not going to have an effective educational program if the kids don't want to be here. And what that means is creating an environment that is supportive, and also, and it's the dirty 3-letter word for school sometimes, but it's fun, right? We want the kids to have fun, and especially at an elementary section, right? We want the kids to want to come to school and they want to have fun, and because of that, COVID has put a damper on that, unfortunately, right? A lot of our big school events have been either postponed or canceled or scaled way back. And these are the things that the kids remember, right? And the parents remember every year. Coming up, we have our UN Day, which I've worked in many international schools, and this is my first year here, but I understand that UN Day here used to be an epic event, and it has to be scaled back. But, I'm engaged in conversations with our lower school staff about what UN Day is going to look like for us, and what is the biggest event we can do and still have it be safe. And And then Sports Day, National Sports Day was yesterday. How do we have a school sports day that is inclusive and fun and dynamic and yet also safe? And so these are the conversations that we're having. But I see Mr. Mubarak's comment and understand that he's really talking about the whole school experience. And that is something that we are cognizant of and trying to replicate this year as best we can, given the current circumstances.
All right.
Yeah, I can, Mr. Mubarak, you hit a point that's not just a GAAQ point. It's a how does education as an organization, well, education as an organization, but as a group, how do educators around the world deal with your point? Because all over the world, they've been very different learning environments, and it's taken what has already been. You go back to the dinosaur era when I was a kid in school, and what you do is you promote. You had gifted and talented programs. What they did is you just promote them. You got a really smart kid in 3rd grade, and he's doing 4th grade work, put him in 4th grade. You got a kid who's really struggling in 3rd grade, retain him. And then eventually teachers don't really have to differentiate. We just move the kids around. That changed a long time ago. So in every school, every good international school on the planet, you have what we call the need for differentiation. You go to any 3rd grade classroom right now, and I promise you will have a bunch of kids at a 3rd grade reading level, some at 4th, some are at 5th. You might have a few at 8th. In that same class, you might have some kids at a 2nd grade class level, at a 1st grade level, or they might still be at KG. And that teacher has to deal with that learning gap, and they have to be able to differentiate. It's imperative. And your point, Mr. Mubarak, is that COVID has sort of exacerbated that. And so, the one thing I might, the beginning of your comment said something about it not being a good learning experience or a valuable learning experience. I think what's happened is it's changed. The person who was already sort of at the top, many of those kids moved even farther forward than their peers, where the person who was already struggling maybe fell farther behind. But it's not as consistent. Some kids caught up. Some kids that were amazing in school struggled with online learning. So they used to be at the top of the curve and they moved. So it's changed that dynamic. And I think when I reflect on all that, what I think of is we just really have to, as educators, be cognizant and look at how COVID has impacted each and every one of those. We talk a lot about individualized learning. Now more than ever, it's imperative that you look at each kid and where they're at on their learning continuum and how COVID has impacted that. And so that's I think what we're doing every day right now as we speak, and try and make those in-class experiences as valuable as possible, because you don't know how long they're going to be here. We could end up going back online. I certainly hope that doesn't happen, but you really have to maximize every day those kids are in class with you.
So I also want to say, just so we're all on the same page, we do have a good amount of comments, so might want to make it a little bit more succinct, so we can maybe flow through some, just for the sake of time and everything like that. But great answer, nonetheless. Let's move on to Ms. Sidra. We'd love to see our kids in lower school participate in some competitions like spelling bee or international linguistics or other contests. So, Jordan, what's your response to that?
My response to that is, so would we. A lot of that stuff is on pause right now. We are currently engaged in conversations with community organizations. There used to be a lot of outreach, right? There used to be a lot of things that are going on in the community that we would take part in. Those opportunities have been limited this year. We were able to take part in a countrywide virtual PE competition earlier this year. Our whole elementary school was able to take part in that. And that was really exciting. The kids had a blast. And we're looking for more opportunities like that. And as things start to open up, fingers crossed, inshallah, as they say, it seems like we're trending in the right direction, right? And as restrictions are lifted and things get more, normalized, then we're hoping to have more opportunities. But I could not agree with you more.
Sorry about that. I had a phone call in the middle of the stream. that's work, right? We're working. So, all right. So let's move on to the next comment. So this is from Miss Ida or Ada. Some people say it that way. Is there a program like giving some motivation to all students, especially for high school students? As we know that children always go up and down in terms of learning. There's a second part to that as well. For this reason, a recharge is really needed to regrow their enthusiasm in learning so they can achieve their goals smoothly. Thank you and have a good day. You have a good day as well. What's our response to that?
I don't think we have a specific one that focuses on, student motivation, but we do have two programs that we have the PAL mentor program that's running, which sort of revolves around that. And we also have a psych club or sort of to do with student well-being. They've had a few events just prior to the winter break that we did. We had like a kindness week, all of those things. So PAL and the psych club were heavily involved in that. Kindness week was actually a really good one. We had lots of, motivational stickers that you could put up, and you got free ice pops and stuff that was going on, and jars where you put in compliments for other people and stuff. So there are things, there are crooks, but if you have a specific idea, I would love to hear it. If you've seen something done in a school that is purely around recharging students, and like, we get enough student buy-in here, I would be happy to have that conversation and work on that.
I can say that I think at the core of this, you're talking to some extent about student morale, and that is a common topic in both our lower school and upper school grade team meetings, is what students are we worried about, and how do we make, Jordan said that dirty word, fun, right? But how do we get that? How do we get them re-engaged and recharged? And that's an important topic. It's because COVID it's been hard. And so we can't keep waiting for COVID to go away. We made that mistake when it first started.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. I participated with an egg drop competition for physics class, and that was fun. That seemed to have everybody excited. But you're right. This is part of the process. It's a whole child development, whole child improvement, right? This is a part of that question. We're always continuing to explore that. So we have another question from Mr. Abdul Latif, or the first question from Mr. Abdul Latif. Welcome. Good morning. Sorry I joined late. This is from Mark. I'll give this question to you, Mark. Do benchmark gyms' performance with other schools in Qatar? So I guess, do we benchmark our performance with other schools?
Again, well, we do with other GEM schools in the GEMS network. I don't have a statistic to benchmark with other schools in Qatar exactly the way they would in UAE. All schools get a KHDA rating, or ADIC if you're in Abu Dhabi. So we don't necessarily get that same sort of easy to compare apples to apples benchmarking. I know that we've been ranked in the top 10 multiple times by other organizations. And we definitely look at what our competitors are doing, right, and try and be competitive with them. So hopefully that addresses the conversation or the question to some extent.
Yeah. All right. Next question we have is, more of a response. Well done, GEMS for online learning program that help children stay connected in school during the pandemic. Hopefully we'll have better times ahead. Inshallah. Times 100. Inshallah. Times 100. So next one from a parent, Mr. Ahmad. Online learning affected the development of our kids, especially lower grades. This stage is very important and critical for their education. It's very true. So want to go to another one as well. So despite these conditions, schools should also adopt to working environment, like we have high school exams next week, while teachers are going full bore with semester 2 work, overburdening students. So what's your response, Mr. Gregory, to that?
Oh, you can get me in trouble with that one. Yeah, we are in it's just a situation. Yeah. A lot of the high school teachers have a curriculum they need to cover, especially the AP people. They're running out of time, so they need to push forward with their content, and sort of that's why there's a semester 2. I met with the senior committee, which is a group of students in high school, they did advocate for that, and I did send a response and have a conversation with staff about doing tests and whatnot this week. A lot of the teachers did do a review week in January because we were planning on having the exams the next week, and unfortunately they got postponed. It's not the most ideal situation. I wish I had a better way to spin it, but I don't. I do know a lot of teachers are considering doing alternative assignments this week in case the students are feeling stressed out and want to focus on next week. But we have rules in place for next week to make sure that students aren't overwhelmed. Only students can only take 2 exams in a day. If they do have 3 scheduled, they come in on the Thursday, which is a make-up day, to do their exam, which eases off that workload. And if there's any conflict or anything like that, they can, if they have their exams in the afternoon, they don't have to come in the morning. They get to have a bit of a sleep in and get well rested, and then they can come in for their exams, or vice versa. If they have their exams in the morning, they're able to leave early in the evening, because they're usually 9th, 10th are in the morning, while 11th, 12th are in the middle of the day, end of the day. So either way, they get something. So I think our students are pretty happy with our exam schedules. I do build that exam schedule with my assistant principal, and then we review it with students first before we give it to teachers. So that again goes into that whole thing about how we like getting different voices and build those things.
I can jump in a little bit. I know you said we're pressed for time, Justin, but I think this question maybe cuts to the core of so many of the other questions that we talked about. So to sort of pat Mr. Gregory and his team on the back a little bit, just so you know how we arrived at this decision and why it happened. And it's unfortunate in our job, sometimes there simply isn't a good answer. And so then you have to look at of the options available, what's the least bad option to pick. And COVID has exacerbated that, unfortunately. And so I was in some of those discussions with Mr. Gregory and his team. And you go back to beginning of January when we came back from Christmas break and found out we're online. And immediately the concern came about, what are we going to do about exams? And there were multiple options discussed. Hey, maybe we just cancel exams. Done. They just don't happen. We talked about the strengths of that and the weaknesses of that plan. We just keep exams where they're at, and we just do exams online. We talked about the strengths of that and the weaknesses of that. What happens if we postpone exams? And this exact question was one of the things we talked about. Well, if we postpone exams, we can't not teach for 3 weeks. So how's that going to work? And we talked about the strengths of that and the weaknesses of that. And the key in all of that comes back to some of these other questions that were asked. What's best for the kids? What's going to have the most positive impact on their learning? And how do we deal with them in a way that they're not overloaded when possible? So I think the key with all that is this was the best option that we could come up with as a group. It's not ideal, not ideal at all. And your concern is valid, and it's definitely something that was a concern, and I know will continue to be. But at the core of all that decision, it's what was best for your kids. That was the number one guiding principle that helped them make that decision.
That's true. It's a good point. It's good clarification as well. It's a lot that goes into what we do and why we do it. So the next thing I would say, in terms of parent comments, or thank you, Mr. Abdullah, I have to drop. I have a meeting. Yeah, we understand. To get to the next one is here with Miss Marianne. I'll be interested to understand why children have only 1 break a day when evidence is clear that brain breaks and nutrition enable greater productivity, concentration, and creativity. What are our thoughts?
Yeah, Marianne, John is in 7th grade, I believe. Yeah, again, it's one of those feedback points that we got in the survey. It's why we're looking at rearranging the middle school, specifically that schedule, and try to incorporate a little more breaks or different classes. Students do get, in defense of it, at the moment in the current schedule, students do get transition time in between classes, which isn't a lot, but it is a little break. That walk in between the classes is a bit of a brain break. I know that teachers have different activities at the beginning or at the end of their lesson that usually give students a chance to have a break. But yeah, again, there's restrictions and stuff. You know, we are mandated to teach a certain amount of things within a school day. A more liberal sort of curriculum might allow more breaks and stuff within it, but at the moment we have what we have.
All right. So since that was a more upper school parent question, I'm gonna move on to the next question here. The best part of online was parent-teacher contact. As parents, we felt comfortable interacting with teachers at short notice on the video call and getting good feedback. This may continue for future also. Well, thank you. The next one I will say is for Marianne. I agree with the comments. Children responding better to positivity and more motivational support would be great. These times are hard for our children. Definitely agree as well. Definitely agree. Mr. Abdul Latif, second question, says suggestion: school should have a backup emergency plan for any situation that might interrupt the regular school live, like the regular campus on campus education. So, Mark, any response to that?
Yeah, I very much appreciate that. One of the running jokes with all of us has been that our crystal balls broke pre-COVID. I used to be pretty good at predicting what was coming my way and be prepared for it. But yeah, your point is valid. We need to be as prepared as we can. And so we said at the end of every year, we talk about plans for the beginning of the year. And so one of the things I said is, let's just literally imagine every possible scenario. We're fully online. Let's make a plan for that. We're partially online, but it's a third of the kids again, instead of 50-50. Let's make a plan for that. Oh, no, it's blended and it's 50-50. Let's make a plan for that. It's 100% of kids on campus, but with COVID restrictions. Let's make a plan for that. It's 100% on campus and no COVID restrictions. Let's make a plan for that. So I promise you, planning is gobbled up a lot more of our time than we used to. And we try to have a plan for every one of those situations.
Definitely.
If I could jump in real quick there. One of the things that I think that our school and many schools have gotten better at is adjusting last minute, right? And one of the things that we've asked our staff to do is come up with an emergency online schedule. If you get a positive case in your class and you all of a sudden have to go online the next day, how quickly can we make that transition? How quickly can you get that information out to parents so that they know what to do the next day? In the past, there was a 1-day lag time, maybe a 2-day lag time in between where you had to make that adjustment. At the moment, I believe our lag time is about 45 minutes to an hour. All of our teachers have their online schedules crafted. They have Zoom links already embedded. And if they get the word that tomorrow, sorry, you got to be online, they can get that schedule out to parents with little to no notice so that everybody is as up to date as possible. As has been brought up multiple times, this is not ideal. This is not a good situation to be in. But all we can do is make the best of a bad situation. And I feel like we've done that. But to address your conversation, your comment, your question about having a backup emergency plan, we understand, we get it. And as Mark said, we've spent a lot of time putting contingencies in place so that there is no lag time in between when we have to make a change last minute.
And the last thing before I go on to the next parent comment, as your parent advocate, I will definitely tell you there are plans all over the place about every single scenario. I'm telling you, Mark does a really good job of thinking about everything. And then our team, we work in terms of how to, create this plan or our readiness for this plan, who's going to be involved, appoint people, how it's going to affect the parents, what about the students, implications on academics. There's so many little things that go into every single plan, but we always have a plan ready to go based on the ministry's, guidelines and directives. So I would definitely tell you that. All right, so let's move forward to Mr. Ahmed. We heard a lot about, this is a 2-part, by the way, right? We heard a lot about how awesome the social events and activities held by the school before, but unfortunately we joined gyms during the COVID. Is there any plans to start these soon? Even at a smaller scale, knowing all the government restrictions. I'll start off with this one. I've talked to him in the chat while we've been on this conversation. So we have moved a lot of those things online to live streams. Like, for example, every month we do a theme live stream for parents to help out the parents. So this month I'll be doing a resume and CV workshop. for the parents. And so that's one event. We do these live streams, pretty frequently. We're going to try to implement more of these for the parents. In addition to that, I know Mr. Gregory, for example, has done some things with students in the school, like Hot Wing Challenge and other, events. We definitely had the mental health awareness and things like that. So these are events at a smaller scale. They definitely were not how they were pre-COVID. And a part of that is because the parents are not necessarily allowed in the building unless for business transactions. And so that also impacts a lot of what we do as it concerns the parents as well. So I don't know if I eloquently have described that as best as possible. So I'll let my team jump in on that one as well.
Yeah, we're definitely doing more now than we were last year. Not as much as we'd like, because that is one of the things that breathes life into a school. Those events that happen that the kids are excited about. But again, we're always thinking about what's best for the kids. So they've come up with a really neat idea, I think, by combining Sports Day and UN Day to create a sort of World Olympics Day. And I think that's, if neither of them can be what they were in their former grandeur, we don't want to just cancel them. Let's come up with a unified plan that allows us to as close as we can approximate what we used to do in the past. And that's always where our mindset is at now. They've done some crazy stuff. Didn't always work. They tried to do a movie night in upper school where all the kids Zoomed and watched a movie on Zoom together. And none of the kids bothered to show up because it maybe wasn't our best idea, right? But we tried that one. Some other ones have worked really well. But that is a constant conversation in our meetings, is if we can't do what we did before, let's not just cancel it. What can we do now instead?
Yeah, I think the latest one, because we're not allowed to have lunch outside, and of course I want the kids outside to have lunch and have that break in this weather, especially at the moment. But they made a virtual lunchroom, so they were all able to join and go in, and you're able to walk around, and it's like a sort of mock building of what the school looks like, and you're able to walk around and talk to each other. And so, the metaverse is coming to James soon, I think.
I'll bring it in. I'll figure out how to do it. We can implement it school wide. All right. So the next question is, how can parents connect more per grade to foster a sense of community? I can start with this as well, if you would like. So one of the effects of COVID and its restrictions are the parent association. So we had a bustling parent association before COVID, but because of COVID, there hasn't just been as much participation with the parent association. But there's still some key members and things like that, but the numbers are just not there to have parent representatives per grade and things like that, like we used to do. So I'm looking forward to different ideas. And Marianne, I know you, so just email me and let me know if you have any thoughts on how we can do that. I'll try my best to think about, some other ideas that we can implement so we can foster that community. But gentlemen, you can go ahead. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, you nailed it.
Okay, cool. I'm glad. That's a good one. I'm glad. Thank you so much. All right. So next one, Zane. Mr. Zane, hi. The new drop-off line is a great change. Really helpful for us. Thanks for that. My question is, like we have this drop-off line, can we have a pickup line too? So Mark, I'll let you tackle that one.
I'm tempted to make a joke about pickup lines, but I'll keep it clean.
That's
the drop-off lines, just so you know, I'll pat myself in the back. That's not all heads of schools do that. I did go out. I spent a lot of time. You guys, if you're there in the morning and the afternoons, you see me standing out looking at the traffic and trying to come up with things. The first drop-off line we had, we moved the buses and put the fence up to keep it safe. So that was a great idea. But again, talking about feedback, the first time I set it up, I had this amazing idea. I set it up in the other direction. It was actually feedback from a middle school kid, and came to me and said, Mr. Mark, and I had not just me, I had my head of transportation out there. I had principals. We had a lot of intelligent people trying to figure that traffic flow pattern out. And one of our middle school girls said, if you have people come in from the other side and go out on this side, then this, and I took one look at it and went, oh man, she's right. So based on your feedback, we completely redid that first drop-off line. And then it was actually a suggestion from someone else that, why don't we use this, the teacher parking? And I said, well, we can't use that as a drop off. That's where teachers park. Then we just have to tell teachers, parents can't be there before 7. So you got to be in before 7. If you're not there before 7, you can't come in to the teacher parking lot. Easy. That was a suggestion from somebody that we incorporated. And I thank you for acknowledging that that's helped. I can see that in the pattern. We are talking about trying to figure out how to do that for pickup. Pickup's just more complicated because all it takes is one parent in that line who's messaged the kid, and the kid says that he's on his way and he doesn't make it. That parent can't move until that kid's in that line. So it's more complicated. At drop off, you can just park, kick them out the door, close the door, move forward, right? Pickup, we've got to get the kid to you. It's a little more complicated. I'm not saying we're not going to do it. It's a suggestion we've talked about several times. I just haven't figured out the logistical piece to make that work.
So we'll move on to the next one. So we have Miss Jasmine Little. Are there any plans for learning support for the pre-K and K students that may be socially delayed as a result of being locked down during COVID?
This is a conversation that we have frequently is the effect of COVID on our students, both academically and socially. And the consensus is, and what we try to do now is, in the past it says, developmentally, if they are this age, they should be here, right? If they are 6 years old, they should have these concepts down and they should have this amount of social interaction. If they are 8 years old, this is where they should be. If they're 10 years old, this is where they should be. We have revised that. And our current kind of rule of thumb is we meet the kids where they are, right? We have these expectations of where kids, should be. And I use that in quotes, right? Where they should be, but that's changed. And our students are not where, and it's a simple fact. A lot of our students are not where the third graders are not where the third graders were 2 years ago because of COVID, because of the change in the disruptions in their learning and in their socialization. So what we as educators have done is we are just trying to kind of temper our expectations and say, okay, this is where our students are right now. We need to meet them where they are, whether it's socially or academically, and we work towards meeting their needs, giving them what they need to be successful. And that is really our operating principle. And it may not sound like a specific plan, but it is working, right? It is lowering the level of stress amongst our staff because they feel, the teachers, when they see a student who's not where they feel that they should be, they're stressed, right? And they feel, okay, what do I have to do? And I'm going to bend over backwards. I'm going to do everything I can to get this student caught up. And when we say, that's not possible, right? We cannot make 3 years of growth in 1 year. And so what we're instead doing is, this is where the kids are. We're going to give them the tools that they need to be successful. And the next year's teacher is going to give them the tools that they need to be successful. And we are going to, I'm not saying we're not going to push our students and we're not going to have high expectations of them. We absolutely are. But we also are just adjusting that to the new reality. But in terms of a specific learning plan for our pre-K and K students that may be socially delayed, again, I don't have anything written on paper. I don't have a 7-point bullet pointed plan for you. All I can say is that when the kids come in the morning, we support them, we love them, we welcome them, and we encourage them, and we do what we do our best with the current situation.
All right. So move on. We only have a couple more responses left. Let's want to make sure we address. This is a good one here from Ms. Sidra. Said, my son in KG didn't want the holiday yesterday. He wanted to be at school because it's fun for him. So well done there. That's what we want. That's what we want. Like Jordan said, Mr. Jordan said, like, just having them come to school is half the battle. Just want them to come to school, want them to be happy. So thank you for sharing that with us. Mr. Abdul Latif, he said, thank you so much for providing great safety for our kids. I believe there is some room for improvement by providing dedicated walking path around school. Drop my kid off to school in the morning. He said that you can contact Ashgall to construct the walking path around school. So something to think about. All right. And that is it. Look at that. Right. So Want to say thank you, parents, for showing up and being patient to get your questions answered. We really appreciate that. And I appreciate my team and my colleagues here for staying a little bit later than we anticipated to answer your questions and to get everything out during this parent coffee morning. I hope that the next time, inshallah, I hope that the next time we have this is with actual coffee, right? Like you see how everybody has their coffee. I have water. I don't drink coffee, right? But hopefully next time we can do this in person, parent cafe style, in the atrium, something like that. That's the hope next time. So I will make my dua for that, so we'll see. But for right now, I think this has been successful. We can have this on replay, and I'll make sure I link this in the newsletter and send it out to parents as well, so you can check out this on your own time. Any parting shots from anyone here? Anything that you want to say before we leave today?
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words and the support in the survey and in this meeting. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Gregory, anything else? Same. Okay, cool. And the thing I would say is thank you, parents, for letting me know everything and talking to me about things. And everything that stays in my office will stay in the office, right? Anything that goes out will be for the aspect of improving the school. So I really appreciate you just giving me my role in this school every single year. I really appreciate that. For now, adios, au revoir, goodbye. Have a good day. Enjoy your Wednesday, all right? Talk to you soon.